activism, resources, and art. This is what we do. I am the assist. My right hand assist, Nick, Raw Cannon, the queen. She got a lot of things going on being a queen. One of the things that I try to talk about a lot, and I learned this with my mom, is like, your mom is never just your mom. You know what I'm saying? Your mom is somebody's girlfriend, is somebody's best friend, is somebody's sister, is somebody's coworker, somebody's partner, somebody's lover. So, when you just being all of those things, and you can probably happen be a lot of those things by happenstance, by just being a woman or a man, that you just happenstance to be somebody's sibling because you was born with brothers and sisters. You know what I mean? But then when you decide to take on roles like being a mother, like being a master, as my co-host is, having her masters, being a wife, you know what I'm saying, being a great friend, because I seen how her and her friend group, they move around, they all cannons, you know what I'm saying. So I you gotta, like, when she's missing, it's always a legit reason. And even if the legit reason is just like, Jarue, I don't feel like doing this Tuesday, that's a legit reason too. That's a good reason too. You know what I mean? But she always got a lot going on, and it's some things. I gotta go check on my folks too. I ain't really seen my family in a little bit because I've been running around and building new family, and building new community and everything. So before I allow y'all to know who this beautiful queen is, I want to always put out there, Cornerstone Drop-In Center, 2321 North Broad Street. You can come down there to be able to take a shower, get something to eat, a place to just be. You can get housing support, you can get job placement, you could just get lined up with a lot of different programs. It's a resource center, and one of the things that I've started saying a lot to people is, what we do is, if you come into the center or you come down there with a gap, we'll try to fill it in. And it doesn't mean you have to be like totally down on your luck to come down. You know what I'm saying? If that's the case, then we're gonna try to build you up from there however we can, even if it's just like water and some food and maybe some clothes, because we do give out clothes as well. But you could come down there and learn, get your LLC jumping, be a nonprofit, learn how to do some type of programming or workshop, or it just come down there to be community. So we got Wednesdays, it's the community table. We ask that folks come down. We want to get it more into like spoken word and open mics, and have some theme to it, on Wednesdays, as we, have our restorative justice circles and eat food, good food, especially when people like cook food. You know what I'm saying? We get good food. But other than that, it's Wisdom and Dairy. I love this song, but it's just not right now. But what's up? The phone? Oh, the phone. So every Thursday we give out food as well. Wisdom and Dairy, we having a big Wisdom and Dairy block party. What September, what? Not the 17th? The 24th? All right, that's cool. So, and we definitely will be giving out food and have a lot of other resources and food and just good time. I like to be in places where people are having good times. So, I was running late. So I want to get to the sister. I don't want to babble on too long because I know she got some good stuff to talk about, and I got some good things to ask her. Some probing, deep questions. This is gonna be the segment. But I don't like to introduce people, so I want you to introduce yourself. Tell people who you are.
See, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Barbara Francois. When you say tell people who I am, what exactly do you mean?
I mean, are you on social media? Like, where do you work? What's your occupation? You
Yes.
like, who are you?
Yeah. That's a very well encompassing question. I am a teacher by training. Well, I was a researcher first. I was doing
I'm a researcher.
yes, observing nature.
Okay, we need that.
Yes. So
More. We need that a lot more.
yes, absolutely. That's how we will begin to solve our problems because we need to observe them like we would observe nature and then begin to understand the problems and find solutions.
Right.
So I was doing research up at Temple University Hospital with HIV-related dementia because oftentimes people have HIV and they become mentally ill, and people would think that, oh, it's because they have HIV, they're afraid, and they start losing their minds. But the reality is, it's the virus itself going into the brain and killing the brain cells. So I was doing that for a couple of years, and then I was like, I think I want to be in the community and doing work with people.
Right.
So then I went to graduate school and became a teacher.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is like the corny way to get you to say where you from. You have an accent. Can you tell me something? Because I always hear interviewers do that. Like, well, you have an accent. Can you tell the people? Even though people hear it, I just think that's like a corny segue. So where are you from?
I do have an accent. I am from Haiti. And this is the other part of my identity, because it's interesting. Whenever somebody asks me, who are you and what you do, I think there's like the external factors, but then there's the self-concept of me, which is deeply rooted in my Haitian identity, in my Afrocentricity.
Being African-centered?
Being African-centered and, understanding yourself from that positive perspective instead of the detrimental social control ideals that actually support white supremacy.
Right.
So
And
that's the most important aspect of my identity.
See, and that's the thing. See, that takes me right into it, because I tell people a lot, Haitians, Black Americans, descendants of slaves, like we were the only group of Africans that were taken away from the continent, everything was taken away. The Black American is a unique African based on that. Like when we talk about people who they brought to Trinidad, Jamaica, Haiti, Dominican Republic, the whole Central and South America, you know what I'm saying? Everywhere that they brought them in the diaspora, but those that they brought to American soil was like bottomed out, I like to say, as far as identity is concerned. They cleaned us of anything that was African related. You know what I'm saying? But I know that different parts of the Caribbean and Central and South America, there was little pieces always left, maybe language, maybe religion. So what is that in Haiti? What was Haiti able to keep as their African identity?
That's an interesting concept, and I love how you place it. But if I go back a little bit to what you were saying, I think initially the usurpation that happened in African minds and African people having taken from the continent happened to all of us, right? I think what happened in Haiti is that, is that event that happened in 1804.
Right.
And that separation, I think proximity to whiteness and white supremacy is detrimental to Black people's mind.
Right.
So here in America, y'all never really had a chance to separate. In Haiti, we 200 years in with the separation, even though the external war continues. So think about how here in America, you can be walking down the street and a white supremacist cop comes in your face and dehumanizes you. That you don't get that experience in Haiti. But from externally, the country is still being squeezed in.
Right.
So anti-Blackness is a global phenomenon, and we are feeling it everywhere, whether it's right in front of our face or externally. We don't understand, why is this country so poor? How is Haiti such a fertile land, such a beautiful tropical island, but being viewed as a third world country? You know what I mean?
I don't know if this still holds true, but maybe I don't say, maybe like 10 years ago, I read in the newspaper, and 10 years is not a long time in the course of a country, of a civilization, and they were saying a lot of the richest people in the Caribbean live in and around Haiti.
Yes.
Like the richest people, for Haiti to be what you like destabilized to the umpteenth degree for a variety of reasons. I want to make sure, because I don't want to forget to put this in there, like Haiti is still being attacked by European powers based on them taking their independence. And a lot of people don't understand that. And we're not just talking about war as in sending people in to fight, and they create civil wars. They play with the politics. They play with the resources. They play with even how food and things of that nature is delivered. When you talk about weaponizing the weather, it's a really big question of every natural disaster. Is any of these not man-made? You know what I mean? And that's a serious question because
Mm-hmm.
we know that we have the technology and the know-how to be able to see clouds, create droughts. You know what I'm saying? We
Mm-hmm.
know that these things can happen, and you look at how it's always one thing after after the other, where it seems like it's a stability happen in any even small way, and then some major disaster happens. You
Absolutely.
feel what I'm saying? And
Yes.
it's like, and then we can talk about economics and all that, how they play economic games with Haiti and squeeze them in. It's a lot. I would rather you talk more about the ways other than just actual war that Haiti is being attacked by by European nations and their allies. And the only reason why I say that because they are still being attacked because of taking their independence. It never stopped.
Absolutely. The war never ended. Um, so first of all, we have to begin to understand the quality of the mind of the opponent, the
Mm-hmm.
mind of the opponents, right? If even here, if you're looking at the American Constitution, it talks about freedom as being like an eccentric human right.
Mm-hmm.
So here in Haiti, you have all these African people who stood up for themselves just to being allowed to be free and be themselves.
Right.
So you would, if we're not dealing with a psychopathic group of people, at least you would recognize that okay, these people are trying to live their human rights. No. We have to be squeezed, we have to be oppressed, we have to be manipulated. So essentially, Haiti is an outlaw. It's just an outlaw country. There's no law.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? There's no
And
law.
and is you know, you have your control in the confusion, like chaos. If I created the chaos, I have control because I know how these people started to become chaotic.
Yes.
So it's one of them things where like European nations, they destabilize countries, and it's more profitable for them, for the country to be destabilized because say it's some type of resource, and you don't have to debate or do business with a stabilized country that knows how to utilize their resource, like say cobalt. If the country is stable, their government wants to be able to benefit off of their resource, whatever it is.
Yeah.
If I destabilize the country, now I can do business with mercenaries and businessmen.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? While the country is in shambles, there's no centralized government for me to compete with or debate with or, you know, negotiate with. So now we could just pretty much run amok of the country however we want as long as we keep it destabilized. And that's what I mean by the person who creates the confusion is in control. So you look at it and say there's a bunch of confusion, but if I created it, I'm the one that's in control.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's what they do with countries like Haiti, Liberia, Cobalt is escaping me right now, but it's on the continent where it's at and how they want to keep
Like Congo.
What is it? The Congo.
Yes.
Yeah.
So essentially, in Haiti, the more you go into the outskirt, the local people, because you know African people will find a way. The more they are able to stay organic and communal, the more the survive. It seems more clean and just what's the word? Like morally upright. You know,
Right.
the people looking after each other. But the more you go into the bigger city, like Gonaïve, Port-au-Prince, you know, the bigger states or cities, the more you see the dysfunctionality. But you have to think about something like energy, fuel. Everybody needs fuel.
Right.
So what happens when even if you are living in your little mountain with your friends and you need fuel to run your motor, and now it's like it went up 3x 4x, that does something to your own internal economy or whatever
Right.
this microeconomy you have going on. So it affects the people.
You know what's funny about you saying the more you go into the city versus being in the like being in, I don't want to say, because some stuff is like
Country.
it's the country. We're gonna say, because you know when they say stuff like the bush in the hills in the valley, a lot of that wording is, you know,
Dehumanizing.
derogatory. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? and so when you say in the hills, but if you say in the places where it's more nature, more traditionally like where you're from, the equator, you know, and the cities are more like the hills, the mountains, asphalt,
it's
stuff
polluted.
like that. And you just start thinking about a Eurocentric mindset versus an African centered mindset, whereas the city is a replica of the hills. You feel what I'm saying? The mountains, the caves, and where that's why so much asphalt and tar, and you want to eliminate so much vegetation, and it comes with a mindset: the rushing, the hustle and bustle, the rudeness. You know what I'm saying? The tension. It's the same thing like in the penitentiary where they have everybody in a building is just concrete and steel. It's more violence, it's more aggression, it's more tension. Then when they created these riot-proof prisons and they spread it out, and made them into like dorms and like how would they do in a college, and now you can come out and walk on the walk and see grass and see rabbits. You notice the tension comes down and dudes are a little more, they're more docile because they get to go outside and it affects you in a different way. And that's the funny thing about that, when you say like you maintain your Africanity the more you stay in the country.
Yes.
And the more you go towards the city and buildings
more
and
westernized,
bricks, right?
Yes.
You get into that Eurocentric mindset that doesn't work for you.
And
that adds to the chaos.
Yes,
that is the chaos.
Yes, it's essentially the disruption of the self-concept and even the collective, the self in the collective self-concept. You know what I mean? Like, who are you? And how do those negative attributes that are associated with black bodies, how much have you internalized these things? Because this is what happened to the people who are more organic and outside in the countryside. They are more authentic. When you go into the big cities and you have your electronics and you have access to social media and you seeing European advertisement and such, and now you're starting to internalize a definition of yourself that is foreign and just like not matching with who you really are. And now your self-esteem, who you are, how you view yourself, your self-worth, and how you measure yourself as others sees you, your adequacy.
Why is it important for you to build? Why is it important for you to duplicate yourself, to procreate, to build legacy? Why is that important? Like, that's what's being taken away.
I love how you say procreate, because
because that's important.
Lifestyles.
Because that's important. Like, listen, procreate. I talk about this a lot because I need people to understand. Like, if you don't understand what your purpose is individually, I lean always towards your purpose is to sustain and promote life, because everything in existence works towards the promotion and the sustaining of life. Everything, trees, the clouds, the water, everything that works in the ecosystem, photosynthesis, all of this stuff that you can come up with, all the scientific names for life connecting to itself and promoting itself and keeping itself going. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's always an adaptation of some sort for survival. Whether you get taller, whether you get shorter, your eyes get wider, they come down. All of that is adaptation for survival, no matter what environment you're in. So everything in existence work towards the promotion of life. So that's why I say procreation. And people who think highly of themselves believe they should be duplicated.
Absolutely.
When you care about who you are and think that what you see in the mirror is worth something, and then, like you said about the collective, when you think of that as a collective, like collectively, us as Haitians, us as Trinidadians, us as Africans, we think great things of our identity and we want to promote that. We want to duplicate that. And we do things as a group to make sure that can healthily, safely be done. And somebody who don't want you to do that because they feel like that challenge is their procreation and existence and identity, they will make you have the idea that you are not worthy.
Absolutely.
And you shouldn't procreate. And having reproductive organs is a problem. And having kids, that takes away from who you are as a woman, even does it don't.
Right.
They tell you these things. And you shouldn't want to be a proud father in that way, that you take care of these kids. You just want to have a lot of kids so you can say, I got all these kids. But it doesn't, you know what I'm saying? It's wasteful thinking about what is so important.
Yes.
Like, I just got all these kids. All right, that's cool. You know what I'm saying? No, but it's even more pride in when you got all of these children and you're actively taking care of them. Like, you wanted to have these riches and you show it, that you're appreciative of it.
Absolutely. I mean, that's also a part of self-ideal, where you can actually project yourself into the future and see not only being able to see yourself in the future, but also being able to see generation not yet born. And that's something I think white supremacists has been good at doing, being able to project a reality for their future generation.
Right.
And so for us, it's like we can't even project, we can't even plan our lives properly in the present. How are we supposed to do that for the future? And we have to understand everything that we are not doing or doing is in the interest of the dominant group.
Yes.
And we have to begin to work for our own domination.
Yes. I always think self-sufficiency is where it begins. That's a part of why the chaos is created in a lot of these places. If you're just talking about foreign policy, like why countries are actively being destabilized and pushed into civil wars and things of that nature, is because you can get control in that way. You can have us so concerned about ourselves, like going at like how we do in America. It's the same blueprint everywhere. That's the other thing I want to tell y'all. Like, while we going at each other, whatever was created to make us go at each other, while we doing that, and it gets so deep, like what's going on in the streets right now, right? You can compare it to a lot of different places, but I just say like man, Uganda. Was it Uganda? No, not Uganda. Rwanda. Because I read about that. Seen the movie Hotel Rwanda and all that, but I read about it way before. I read news clippings from the time, the whole thing, and it was so similar to what you see in Black America everywhere, where it was like the problem was created by oppression. You know, over there it was the Belgians. They came in, they did vicious, vile, brutal things to people, and then they started making Black folk do it to other Black folk. They created a small group of Black folks called Tutsis. Tutsis, and gave them the privilege. Now they did vicious stuff to these folks, and what they would do is they would, like, if you don't cut his ear off, I'm gonna cut your son's ear off. That type of thing. If you don't control these people the way I'm telling you to, I'm gonna throw you back down there to where they at. Now we'll let y'all live in these different places, make a little bit more money, you know, live. And this is what they do with like rappers, athletes. They create this bourgeoisie class of people that they use to control the larger group. But in order to get that control, on the way to maintaining that control, you have to be ultra violent. And then you have to make in some way these people be ultra violent to their own people. Absolutely. So now once you make them do that for 10, 20, 30 years, now you can't remember that the Belgians were at the beginning.
Right.
You just looking at your people like, how could you do this to me?
Right.
And it's like, it's almost a can't win proposition if I'm in the middle of it, and it's like you give me the joint and say, all right, he did something I told him he wasn't supposed to do. You cut his nose off, or I'm going to cut your son's nose off. You feel what I'm saying? So now you like, some people going to say, kill me. It was a lot of brothers and sisters who died. Like, they just killed them. Like, I can't do it. But it was a lot of people that was like, for the protection of mine, I got to do it. Like, just please seed it up. But after years and years of this going on, and then you get generations of children born into this mindset and this lifestyle, now it look completely different. Now Tutsis look like completely different people.
Absolutely.
You feel what I'm saying? Yes. And we can't get past that to the beginning. Like, the Belgians created this mindset. They the ones that set this into motion. We gotta realize that in order to stop it and rebuild.
Absolutely. It's like the book, The 2000 Seasons.
Yes.
Yes. And how
that's an amazing book.
It's an amazing book. How you have those external enemies who came and successfully instill internal enemy within. So now they don't even have to do the damage.
They don't got to do the work no more.
All by yourself. And so where do we go from there? How do we begin to redefine ourselves? You know what I'm trying to say? Because this war is just going to be ongoing, and generation after generation. And
so if you go to what is the number one issue in Haiti to you right now? I'm sure it's more like a person could say, what's the number one issue in America, and people can come up with 1,000 things.
Yeah. I think it's we are losing our sense of identity. I think we are becoming too westernized. I think ethnocentricity is a thing where you take pride in your culture and
Right.
and you kind of use it as like a yardstick for comparing other cultures.
Mm.
And I think we used to be able to do that, but I think the more westernized Black people are becoming, the more internally you hate yourself. And if you hate yourself, you can't do anything progressive for yourself.
Not at all.
So that's the thing. And I think it's happening everywhere. So for me, because I came here maybe like 19, 20 years ago, and I've gone back to Haiti almost every year or every other year since COVID. I haven't been. But ever since, every time I go back to Haiti, and and I go further away from the cities, I'm realizing, okay, we are becoming too westernized. But who am I to say that, because I live in America? So it's like this.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I can't see who put that question up there, but
Has it been hard for you being a Haitian woman now living in America? What are some of the differences you've experienced?
Oh, that's a good question. You know, I think again is maintaining a positive self-identity. Because I'm a dark-skinned, tall Black woman, and in America, I think there's all this negative perception as far as what a Black woman ought to be, and that's definitely not who I am. So I had to, reaffirm my sense of self through self concept, self esteem, self ideals, to maintain a positive image of myself, and present and enter spaces presenting those aspects of myself. So yes, being in America and realizing, okay, I'm a Black person. I'm thinking me and other Black people are just gonna flow, like,
Nah.
because we are the same.
No, no, no,
But
no,
it's
no,
like,
no.
no, the way we've been
No, no,
cultured
no.
or not cultured
No, 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 no.
have a lot to do with how we interact. But I think here the problem that if I may say from my observation of Black culture here, I think Black people here are failing to identify who they are not. Because I think people spend a lot of time having a definition for themselves, but is this really who you are, or is this whom you have been programmed to be?
You are a creation. We've been talking about this in the last couple of days, where it's like the person, how people be like the old me, the old me. We all do it. I've done it. The old me, the old me, the old you was a creation.
Right.
You didn't really you probably just realizing who you are. There is no old you. The old you was a pattern that was put together.
Right.
And when you turn certain ages, living in certain environments, being a boy or a girl, it was a certain amount of things that was going to happen to you. If you lived in the inner city, even if you lived in the suburbs, there's certain psychological things that's going to happen to you because you are Black, living in, say, a all white or even half and half white. Half Black, half white. Certain things are going to be messed with you about your identity. You're not going to necessarily face, the trauma of not eating, the trauma of living in a war-torn place where they gang warring, like not gang war, but y'all know neighborhoods is beefing, or it's drug ridden, or you're not gonna get that trauma. You're gonna get the trauma of why your hair not that lot long enough, why it's not straight enough, why your nose so wide. Do Black people have tails? You're gonna get that type of stuff when kids come out from the dinner table of their parents, because you living in a neighborhood where white folks live. So when you in the playground, these kids are asking you questions based off the orientation that they got in their racist home. And that's what you're going to deal with if you have a little bit of access. The identity issues are, am I Black? Does Black matter? Am I beautiful? I don't relate to the quote unquote street Black folk, because they done got y'all convinced that shooting, killing, twerking, chasing a bag is authentically Black culture. It's not. Men and women are promoting these ideals that are not traditionally Black culture. Like when people say we not a monolith, we damn sure ain't ratchet Black people monolith, but that's where a lot of us say is the old us.
Right.
The ratchet ignorant person that used to be doing goofy dumb shit that got people killed and locked up and babies you couldn't take care of. That's not the old you. That was a creation. And when you start realizing that, then you're becoming you, whoever you are.
Right.
But a lot of times you're gonna start hearing that, especially in hoods all over the world. the old me until you start finding out who you are as an African for real, who you really come from, what's your real identity.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So that identity piece for me, you know, that's my thing. I talk about that all the time.
Yeah.
But we gotta go back before
Absolutely.
the beginnings.
Right.
The beginnings is the boats. Like you came out. What were we doing before the boats? That's what
right.
I want to say to a
That's
lot
right.
of people.
That's right.
That's a question Black people need to ask.
Absolutely. Who were we before we got here? And you know, because history lives inside of you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you can't. It's like a tree without a root.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes when I hear, you know, even when my students say they're not African, I said, have you ever seen a Chinese person says they're not Chinese? Like, if it doesn't matter how many generations ago they moved from China, motherland China,
Mm-hmm.
they are Chinese.
It never get taken. I dealt with that so.
It's like, how do you?
But that's what I'm saying about. It goes back to what I said earlier about we have all faced. We have all been. Black folk have been at war with Europeans for 3,500 years. Probably longer than that, but we going because Europeans is the youngest group of people on the planet race wise.
Mm-hmm.
They probably been on the planet 10. You can maybe stretch it to 20,000 years, but that's about as far as it get. And we have been in active like war with white folks for 3,500 to 5,000 years. So when we say like Black folk has been affected by European domination and oppression and subjugation and tyranny all everywhere. That's a real thing. But again, Black folk, these kids that you running into were bottomed out. So that's why being African is so abrasive to them. Like saying you African. And now that we have so many of our brothers and sisters that just came to America like 10, 20 years ago, and because of their oppression, you know, colonialism, they have a whole different European thing going on, and they have this whole different perspective about who these Africans are not, because we not the same.
Right.
We not, and we look at them like, even me, I said it to my daughter, you like the Africans? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, that's crazy, because I consider myself an African.
Right.
So
right.
now I can't say just the Africans.
Yeah.
You know, that was kind of like a joke, but it was a real thing because that's really how we look exactly the same.
Absolutely.
You look just like this person, even though you can tell, like, if folks is from Liberia, and you can tell if folks is from Eritrea,
Right.
and you know, Ethiopia and stuff like that, Sudan. You could tell by the different archetypes, but it's a crazy thing that it's not like that in Jamaica. It's not like that in Trinidad. If you tell them that they African, they fight you. In America, they fight you about that. Like, what? I ain't no African.
Yeah.
That's a whole argument, not a debate.
Right.
I ain't no an African. I ain't no, and y'all. I'm not exaggerating either, because I done been in these conversations with people who are offended that you tell them that they are African. And I usually use the example you use with Chinese folks. You know what I'm saying? No matter how long whenever they came, they're still Chinese.
3, 4, 5 generation here. They're still Chinese.
And you even make sure people say, no, he ain't Korean, he Chinese. Right. You're black behind who don't want like nah. You like, nah, they Cambodian. You want to make sure other people got their culture correct. You can't get your job.
You know.
Yo, that's crazy. That is crazy.
This is what we call the great anonymity, right? That's the word? Anonymity?
Anemone?
Yes, like enmity, where it's like the enemy within.
Oh yeah. It's menacide.
Yes,
Menocidal behavior.
Yes, I think they know the power that we have is so strong that they are that's why they have to be so invested in making sure that we stay ignorant to the point where we can't identify with who we are.
I think no, I agree with that. I think at this point, I just want to tell black people, we just being outsmarted at this point.
Being naive.
At this point, like seriously, we just being outsmarted at this point. I came to this. I had this epiphany last night. I was talking to another one of my sisters, one of my queens that I be around, and I said, I know what I'm doing. I'm saying it to y'all wrong. Y'all are being outthought. That's why our community looks the way that it is. We being outthought. That's it's nothing else. It ain't nothing else. It ain't nothing else. It's nothing else. And what I mean by being outthought is like, okay, you see other people have a flag in the language, and that's what unifies them and keeps them moving forward make sure they got their own councils and they work hard for their people, and it's their people first and then everybody else. We all see it. We black folk, we've been in America long enough. It is a young nation in the confines of this being a civilization. 400 years, 500 years is not a long time. And then the other thing you got to realize, this is not really a country. This is a business. America is a business. It's not a country. It's a business, y'all. I'm telling y'all, look at how the laws read out. It's business. It's about money. Everything costs a price. It's a business. America is a business. And the business is labor. And who can we get cheap and free labor from so we can live a life of access? Who can we convince that a 9 to 5 is an achievement? That working 8 hours. Who has convinced their kids that if you work 20 or 30 years for us and our Lear jets and our platinum parachutes for when we retire and get a $10 million bonus? That's always going to go with inflation to some point. Right. But your pension ain't going with inflation. You're going to work 30 years and the cost of living is going to keep going up, and then your pension is not going to be worth all the love, sweat, tears, how you work so hard and you made it so important not to never be late, and you ain't want to take no sick days, and you ain't want to take no vacations. That's what they did in their business strategy. They convinced all of these people that you lazy, so you need to work even harder, even though we worked you hard as shit for free for so long. And then you holler at your kids like, no, you got to be a hard worker and sweat. And you know, Europeans do this with other Europeans as well. Don't get that part mixed up. But poor Europeans and black folk do not live the same existence in America. So I'm not one of them people that go into that, oh, I was, poor white trash, so my existence was you. No. You're poor and my poor.
It's two different things.
I'm sorry.
Even psychologically, it's different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because you have the opportunities. There's no system. There's no institution. Matter of fact, the institutions are set up in a reverse for you. Even if you are dumb, dirty, a piece of ish, but you white, you come into the space with an advantage because everything around the space is telling you that you greater or more supreme than everybody else.
You are rendered visible and validated.
No matter what your issues are as a European, you still come into every space with that institution promoting the idea that you are more supreme than every other person. So it's no way that your poor and my poor could be the same. And, that's just a real situation. But what they've convinced us is, like you said, identity-wise, to have a European mindset, therefore everything you do is to promote European ideals and in return help them stay in the position that they're in.
To me, that is a failure of the imagination. It's anti-self, anti-personal indoctrination. When do you see like a pack of dogs or a pride of lion walking around and saying, look, I'm gonna just not catch me a gazelle today, you know what I mean? Or the gazelles are like, let's just stand still and let the lions come and eat us. Like, an organism's primary goal is reproduction and self-defense, self-preservation. And I think Moali Baruti, he talks about those inner circles, with men being on those circles where you have the women, the children, and the elders in the innermost circle, then the women in the second circle, and the men taking the sacrificial roles of like perimeter defender. Right. And so it's like, in our society, you seeing the breakdown on all these structures, and the failure to imagine and conceive good reality for ourselves, and not being able to manifest. You know what I mean? Just think about what should our life be? What should our communities be? And you and I were having this conversation where even when we come together and we are thinking, okay, we have similar thoughts about what we should be, you can bet on it. Somebody's gonna.
Yes, what's going to happen is your miseducation, your colonization of your mind, your self-esteem, your self-hatred is going to keep trying to poke its head out, because that's what I'm saying. it was a creation. Going to American schools promote all of those ideas. Watching American media promote all of those ideas. Listening to American music promote all of those ideas. Even when you have people who look like you singing, acting, working for, in accordance with those ideas. You have black people who actively promote self-hate in their imagery. They want to be lighter. They on the cover lighter. They got their skin looking lighter. Even to now, the filter is never darker. I never see the filter darker. I never seen that. I'm sorry.
The greatest.
I might have missed it because I'm not on social media as much as people may think I am.
Gift.
But that's
melanin.
Exactly, and that's a whole nother conversation that you're gonna have to come back on the show to talk about,
Yes.
because melanin is major. But even the identity thing is still that. Like, that's what comes into the room when we're trying to build. The creation was so great. Like, I gotta give the planners, I gotta give white folks who created race in America. I gotta give those elite, wealthy white folks who convinced poor white folks that somehow the only thing that mattered was as long as you had whiteness and everybody else didn't matter. Like, these were all creations. This is not innately in people. This is a creation. It's ethos, it's culture. But for America, it was business. We want to keep poor people poor as long as possible. So what do? Create confusion amongst the poor folks, because we don't want them to get together and overthrow, so we can maintain our legacy all the way up throughout. Those people are still the wealthy people in America. They have not changed positions. They just passed the wealth down. They expanded the wealth as their families expanded. That's all that happened. And they kept you in your subjugated role, but now they're doing it with this. You're intellectually lazy. They're just outthinking you, because the thing that they have you looking at all day has the key to everything you need to know about getting out of your bondage, and you won't look at it. That's how masterful what they created. Wow, I can't. You're just outthinking you right now. They not beating you. They are beating you, but they're using the system to kill you in plain sight. Like, they use that to lynch you, but it's a mind game. Having a cop kill somebody in the street is the same as a lynching of back in the day, but you understood exactly what the lynching was. Now, being killed in the street by the cops, it's a debate. Right. We all can debate it because of how they situated the system to play with your brain. And how they position you in the system that you need that job. So you have to have black cops because they need jobs. But they only create certain jobs for you to be able to get, because they want you to be the buffer for the job. So you can spend so much time fighting with yourself, you'll never get a chance to fight. You know what I'm saying? So that's gonna be can you I need you to do this too. My bad, I run late and then I try to take more time.
Yeah, it's okay.
But what is your resource? What do you think your resource is? Yes.
I think my resource is just my ability to being myself and empowering myself and reminding other black people that we are enough. You know what I mean? I think sometimes I enter spaces beyond the fact that, I focus on self learning and just investing in myself. But I think one thing that got taken away from us through slavery, which is my history, which is something we all relate to, is the removal of yourself from yourself. So sometimes I enter spaces with black people and it's like, people can't be still. Like, you are enough. Then who you are, what you can bring to the table, your gift, your abilities, your skills, your intellectual abilities, that's secondary. But we are a communal people. We are God's creation. Our job is to just be. Then being useful. Contributing to making sure we maintain the sanctity of spaces that we create, looking after our children, empowering ourselves, empowering others. You know what I mean? Because I think I enter spaces sometime, and the same reason why people love me, I'm like, you're gonna hate me for a minute, for it later on, because I'm not changing. Right. I'm not gonna jump on the angry black woman bandwagon. It's unbecoming. I have certain standards for myself. I'm not just gonna hop on the, objectifying men and thinking, okay, that's cute. It's not cute. It's not okay for black men to objectify black women. It's not okay for black women to objectify black women. You know, there's certain things that I just don't do. I don't chase men. There are certain things I just don't do. So it's like, and so then it's like, oh, you might meet me and you're like, oh my goodness, Barbara, I love you, this and that and the third. And it's like, okay, Barbara is consistent with that behavior though. You know what I mean?
I do. I will say this, and in total agreement. I will say this.
Yeah.
We do present differently because we don't know how to just be. So we come into a space either downplaying who we are or overdoing it to try to hide because who we think we are is not enough.
Right.
So that I totally when you say that if you stay consistent, people are going to question your consistency when I should be questioning, why are you like this?
Right.
Why are you moving like this? Why are slowly but surely you changing into a different person from when I first met you?
Right.
But you're trying to question my consistency. I've been the same. I come into shit and I'm the same person. And they be like, well, when is it? No, it's not going to happen because I actively try to be a certain type of person.
Right.
But you coming in off your old shit
Yeah.
and you different as it goes on. So when I'm consistent, now we got a problem. It's like relationship. We talk about in relationship, the representative, but we do that in all relationships. I see it. The representative comes first, and then and it's like, damn, you could have just been you from the rip.
Yeah, and you know, for me, the inconsistency that I see within black people, even coming together in the conscious community, is the readiness to be antisocial, the readiness to rage. And it's like, no. I mean, can't we reserve that for the real enemy? Because the real enemy's out there.
Nah, that's another John. That's a real thing. We always be ready to be like, fuck this. I do this by myself. I be by myself. I don't need. That's a lie. We social by nature, but we gotta get out of here. I don't want to, because that's a whole nother conversation. But
Yes.
I agree with that. We run to the antisocial shit like it's really us. Again, that's not really you.
Right.
We're communal by nature. It's the reason why people go crazy when they are isolated. This is PSA, Philly service announcement. Good looking toucan. Tell them who you are again.
My name is Barbara Francois.
I appreciate you. Love, support, great social activism, resources, and art. That's what we doing out here.